Sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get thousands of documentaries and Nebula for free for 31 days. Link in the description. Checkmate is a bootrom-level security exploit that can be used against every iPhone from the 4S to the 10. It was announced late last week by Axiom-X. Axiom-X? Damn it, Apple. And ever since, we've seen everything from fear, uncertainty, and doubt to supremely good reporting on what it is and what it isn't, and most importantly, what it means for all of us. So let's try to sort it all out and break it all down. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Checkmate. Now, before we dive in, I'm not an InfoSec expert, nor do I play one on the internet. Checkmate is absolutely serious, but very specific, and in some ways, very limited. It's certainly helpful to jailbreakers and researchers that it exists. Probably neutral, good for bad actors, and bad for Apple, and a black eye for iOS security that'll no doubt drive them even harder to lock things down even better. Again. But for the average user, the threat level today probably isn't much different than it was a week ago. I'm going to sum up why as best and as accurately as I can, but I'm also going to link you up some terrific work by Ars Technica and Malwarebytes in the description. Hit them up for much, much more. Cool? Cool. Bootrom, or secure boot, is the very first code that runs on an iOS device when it starts up. It lives on a ROM, or read-only memory chip, at the very lowest level of the device, and it typically can't be changed. A bootrom exploit, then, is an exploit that targets a bug in the bootrom. That's as opposed to the far, far more common exploits that target bugs at the higher operating system level. While operating system exploits are far more common, they're also far more easily fixed. Pretty much every time Apple updates iOS, the new version patches security issues with the older version. Not so with bootrom exploits. Because they're in ROM, they're nigh impossible to patch. I mean, never say never, but so far, every device with a boot ROM that's exploited stays exploited. And Checkmate exploits every device with an A5 to A11 chipset. So far, devices affected by Checkmate include iPhone 4S to iPhone 10, iPad 2 to 7, iPad mini 1 to iPad mini 4, iPad Pro 1 and 2, Apple TV 3 to 4K, iPod Touch 5 to 7. Earlier iPhones, iPads, iPods Touch, and the like aren't affected. The new entry-level 10.2-inch iPad and iPod Touch 7 are on A10, so they're the only current devices currently affected. Checkmate doesn't work on A12 or A13, so that means the following devices are not affected: iPhone XR, any of the iPhones XS, or any of the 11s, iPad Air 3, iPad mini 5, and iPad Pro 3, the one from 2018. As to why, the developer told Ars Technica, there were changes to make newer chipsets not exploitable. All I know is I can't get it to work. For me, it's not something that I can do. What I do involves using multiple bugs. Some that are not serious might be required to access other bugs that are more serious. Because Apple patched some bugs in the newer phones, it can no longer be exploited as far as I know. Checkmate is an exploit, and that's it, at least for now. It's something that could and probably will turn into a jailbreak sooner rather than later, but also has some very limited, very targeted potential to be turned into an attack as well. Given what it is and those limits, though, it's probably not something most of us have to worry about. At least not more than anything else. There are a few things that limit Checkmate's potential as an attack. First, it can't be executed remotely. Someone has to take physical possession of your iPhone, iPad, or other iOS device first, put it in DFU mode or device firmware update mode, and then plug it into a PC over USB before they can even run the exploit. Second, Apple has a secure boot chain, so every step is checked by the previous step, and if the signatures aren't verified, the software just won't run. Checkmate can't rewrite the boot ROM, it can only exploit it. Here's what that means, according to what the developer told Ars. I can't write my code into the read-only memory, so my only option is to write into the RAM, or in this case, SRAM, which is the low-level memory that is used by the boot ROM, and then have my injected code live in this small space. But the actual boot ROM code itself does not get copied in there. It's only the thing that I added to my exploit. What that means is Checkmate isn't persistent. It can be used to run unsigned code on your device, but that code only lasts until the device is rebooted. Then it goes right back to normal, and you'd have to go through the whole exploit process again to run unsigned code again. Third, Checkmate doesn't compromise a secure enclave on the A7 or later, which means it can't beat the hardware encryption, get around Touch ID or passcode, and doesn't work on devices with Face ID, or otherwise give anyone else access to your data or secrets. To get those, you would have to leave your device lying around somewhere vulnerable for an extended amount of time. An attacker would have to get a hold of it, run the exploit, get a hold of and load up malware that could try and capture your credentials, put your device back, and then try to capture them when you next use it. And if they're a disgruntled family member with that kind of access to your devices, it'd be far easier to just wait for you to fall asleep and put your finger on the Touch ID sensor, or just shoulder surf your passcode anyway. For non-family members, again, the creator talking to ours, installing a potential backdoor is not really a scenario that I would worry much about, because attackers at that level would be more likely to get you to go to a bad web page or connect to a bad Wi-Fi hotspot in a remote exploit scenario. Attackers don't like to be close. They want to be in the distance and hidden. So again, never say never. But at large scale, I'm not sure Checkmate changes the economics of iOS attacks. But if you're concerned and still running an A5 or A6 device without a secure enclave, which Apple is no longer supporting or updating anyway, then add this to the voluminous list of reasons why you should consider upgrading ASAP. And if you think, based on who you are or what you do, that you have a much higher potential threat level, then you've probably already routinely upgraded to the latest silicon anyway. Jailbreakers are probably the most excited about Checkmate. Now, nowhere nearly as many people jailbreak as they used to, because iOS has continued to add more and more of the functionality that people used to jailbreak to get. But the ones that do, the customizers, the tweakers, the unsigned appers, they're every bit as passionate as ever. And Checkmate is like the second coming of the holy grail for them, basically because it's been so long since they've had a jailbreak built off a bootrom-level exploit. What makes it so attractive to jailbreakers is that, unlike operating system exploits, which have led to jailbreaks as recently as iOS 12 this year, bootrom exploits don't get blown away the very next time Apple releases a software update. So the jailbreakers can relax and enjoy their open systems, and likely with any version of iOS, past, present, or future, for as long as they're using one of the affected devices, with a few caveats. First, it'll only be those devices, iPhone 4S to iPhone 10 primarily, and as time passes, those devices will be less and less modern and, frankly, interesting. Second, even when the jailbreak comes, it will be a tethered jailbreak, at least for now. And that means, yes, putting your device in DFU or device firmware update mode, connecting it to a PC with a USB cable, and running the jailbreak every time it reboots. And that might be just enough of a hassle that it'll relegate long-term use to the hardcore rather than just the curious. Security researchers are likely the group that benefits the most from Checkmate, at least in the short term. Up until a month or so ago, when Apple announced their new bug bounty program and research-fused devices, researchers had to come up with their own exploit chains or get their hands on black market dev-fused devices to even get into iOS and start poking around to begin with. So, having a likely irrevocable bootrom-level exploit, even if only for older devices, will make researchers' lives just that much easier. Basically, it solidifies the first link in the exploit chain for them, and they can just get on with everything else. And even before Apple starts shipping those research-fused devices in the near future. What does this mean for nation-states and government agencies and the companies that supply exploits and devices to them? Much the same. Politics bends everything, including the economics of iOS attacks, but these entities typically have exploits of their own already. At most, Checkmate will supply them with an alternative to what they're already using, and one that can't be blown away by an iOS update sometime in the future, though, again, only on older devices. And they'll still need their own exploits for more recent devices, and because Checkmate doesn't get around secure element, or passcode, or Touch ID, they'd still need their own exploits for the rest of the chain as well. The developer, speaking with ours. I don't think they can do anything today with Checkmate that they couldn't do yesterday without Checkmate. It's just that yesterday, maybe they would do it in a slightly different way. I don't think they gain anything from this release. So again, if based on your work or just who you are, you think you're potentially at higher risk from Checkmate specifically, you can protect yourself by making sure you're on an A12 or A13 device. Real talk. Checkmate is an incredible piece of work. You only have to look at how long it's been since iOS bootrom was last exploited to understand just how much Axiom X has really accomplished. But for right now, this is also so very inside baseball and not something the average fan in the field is even going to see. So Stay informed. Absolutely. Follow those links in the descriptions if you want to learn more about it. Please. But don't lose any sleep over it or let anyone steal any of your time or attention bait you with it. One part of an iOS exploit chain has been made stable for a series of older devices. Apple absolutely has to address that and address how they're handling iOS security in general in an age where so many eyes and minds are on them. It's already fixed in newer devices, but Apple has to figure out new and better ways to keep it from happening with current and future devices. It's been a decade since it's happened before, but the goal should be, and I'm kind of guessing is, forever until this happens again. But that's all on Apple. For us, again, anyone at all concerned by Checkmate, if you haven't already, upgrade to an iPhone XR, XS, or 11, or a current or eventually later generation iPad Pro. And then Checkmate will be checked out of luck. Now, one quick programming note. Some of you have asked me how you can watch my videos, just not on YouTube. Well, the answer is Nebula, and you can now get it as part of CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is a subscription streaming service with thousands of documentaries and nonfiction titles, which now comes bundled with Nebula as well. Nebula is a streaming video platform built by and for independent creators like Kurgazak, Sarah Z, Captain Midnight, T1J, Kento Bento, and yours truly, with great originals like Working Titles and Grand Test Auto, a car review show from JT from Second Thought and Joseph from Real Life Lore. CuriosityStream loves independent creators and wants to help us grow our platform, so they're offering Vector viewers free access to Nebula, along with access to thousands of documentaries and series, like Bright Now, which features timely and intriguing short stories about science and technology, history, global issues, and the personalities at the center of it all. Just go to curiositystream.com/vector for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and nonfiction series, and now Nebula as well, and enter promo code VECTOR to start your membership absolutely free for the first 31 days. Thanks CuriosityStream, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. So that's Checkmate, at least how I understand it and right now. But if I got anything wrong, I want to hear from you. Hit like if you do, subscribe if you haven't already, exploit the hell out of that bell gizmo so you'll actually know when future shows go live, and then hit up the comments and let me know. Thank you for watching. See you next video.